People who work in journalism, like many others in professional life, don't like being told how to do their job. They're notoriously sensitive to criticism and complaints, even though they can be lacerating in their criticism of others. They prefer to run their own affairs, and if they've got problems internally, they like to handle grievances and grumbling about their work themselves. But these are systems of self-regulation, and sometimes they don't work. And when they don't work, they can lead to public anger. They can also lead to governments laying down the law about how journalism and media should work and should operate. There are dozens of self-regulatory systems operating in many countries. Many of them are defined by law. Others are based on the principle of voluntary regulation by editors, owners, and journalists themselves. But the big question the Ethical Journalism Network has been asking is, do they work? Does self-regulation really work at the level of the individual, at the level of the enterprise, and across the industry? Do the systems that have been put in place to try to keep journalists honest really command public support? And just as importantly, are they supported by journalists and media professionals themselves? Joining me to discuss these questions are Tom Porter, who's an award-winning journalist from Channel 4 in the United Kingdom, Zahira Harb, who's an academic at the City University and a distinguished broadcaster, and Chris Elliott from The Guardian, who's the reader's editor.
At The Guardian, we've had an internal ombudsman that we call the reader's editor since 1997. And it's the role of that person to look into complaints and queries about Guardian journalism. And on the whole, we've found that it's been an important step in trying to build trust. In the early days, it was about print, but actually, in the world of the web, where trust is a very difficult thing to maintain, I think it's even more important. And it's also increasingly important because readers expect more than they used to. It's not just them occasionally getting a letter in the paper, it's now their ability to question individual journalists, in pretty much in real time as stories unfold. So we have found it an important way forward and something which builds trust in The Guardian, and The Guardian has a very high trust rating. It's also, as a side effect, we did a little work some time ago which showed that we now spend less on legal matters, because if you can give people a fast, fair, transparent service of dealing with their complaints, and you can manage to do that within 3 or 4 days on a good occasion, and within a week when it gets a bit tougher, then people won't feel the need to go to law. So no, our experience at The Guardian is that this is a good system.
Wouldn't it be better, Tom, than if the readers of newspapers and the press had a legal regulatory system in which you have an independent regulator such as Ofcom in the United Kingdom, and actually most broadcast journalism in most parts of the world in fact are governed by legal systems of regulation?
Yes, I mean, I speak from a different point of view to Chris about this, because we are, as you say, governed in what we do by Ofcom, which is a statutory set-up regulator. And by and large, we find that a very good system. We're able to break important stories that challenge authority and governmental authority. But we have a strict code of conduct which we keep to. And if something goes wrong, the viewer or the subject of documentary or whoever it is who might have an issue with what we've done has somewhere clear to go to. I mean, they can come to us first and complain, they often do that, and we often sort out complaints before they get to an Ofcom stage. Or they can go to Ofcom, and it's very clear, if they have a problem with what we've broadcast, they go to Ofcom.
If we take a country like Egypt, which is one of the biggest countries in the Arab world, they are regulated by a media law, but they also have a code of conduct that is produced by their press syndicate. That code of conduct is outdated. It goes back at least 30, 40 years ago. And what we see now in Egypt is this complete outburst of hate speech by many broadcasters, mainly on national TV. And their code of conduct actually talks about, the need to have like society harmony, not to incite hatred against the other. That's not considered. So in many cases like that, I believe that self-regulation is important for these journalists, for these broadcasters to identify the need for themselves to stop or at least find a kind of like a ground for certain principles for their practices and conduct that does not actually incite hatred against other people within the same community, and also put some kind of professional principles for what is journalism all about.
In any guidelines and codes that you draw up, you publish them. I mean, every broadcaster has producer guidelines. I mean, they're always this thick. If you publish them, then the public know how to hold you to account. And I'm sorry to go back to this again, but honestly, in the world of the web, people are much more likely to spend time going through these guidelines and saying, look, you did X, X, and X, and you've breached that. And in a world of social media and other things, they will, they can build campaigns to say you've treated this group particularly badly, that group particularly badly. And I think it's an increasing way that the readership is mobilizing to put pressure on newspapers when you publish these things that are making us all think about this a lot more.
I think there are two commodities that are very important to any news organization around the globe, and that is trust and accountability. And having these set of code of conducts and in the Arab word, for instance, we call them ethical codes, help you achieve that kind of relation with your audiences and with your readers on the basis of, this is what we do and this is what our principles are, and on that basis you can trust us, you can believe that we're accountable to you, and this is how we're doing our job. In many countries that's missing.